All right, Joanne, once again, huge welcome to the Oral Entrepreneurs Podcast. We are super excited to have you here. And before we jump in right into the good stuff, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, what you do, and where you came from?
Well, I'm an economist by training. I graduated from Howard University, where our new vice president, Kamala Harris, has graduated from. But I'm the first in my family to have any college degree. My great grandmother was blind and she couldn't read or write, but she was an entrepreneur. And she believed in education, that education could change lives. And so did my family. So I started at the University of Miami. That's where I got my first degree. And none of my sisters or brothers had degrees. And so by the time we finished, all it's six of us had undergraduate degrees, as well as most of them had graduate degrees. I'm still the only one in my family with a doctorate degree. But the reason I studied economics is I couldn't understand, and I studied it from high school, why so many people had so little and so few people had so much. It's the dynamics of wealth, the dynamics of income flow. And so my first kind of research job was at the World Bank, and my job there was forecasting the demand of education around the world, and that started a long career of looking at income, looking at education, and looking at how it impacts lives. My first professional job, though, was in Tanzania, East Africa. Uh, and in East Africa, I was a senior economist at a housing bank. Fast forward, came back, finished the doctorate degree, went to work for IBM, did large systems forecasting there. But where I really found my passion was when I was at I was the IBM visiting professor to Hampton University. I loved seeing students get it. You know, you can look in their eyes. They don't have to tell you anything, but you can tell when they are a little confused, and then you can tell when they get it. And part of what I had to bring to the table was I was a practitioner. I had been out, I had actually used economics to solve problems. A lot of times when you just look at the theory, it's not exciting for the students, to be quite candid, and you lose them. And I see that in the discipline, we've lost a lot of good students because they don't make it relevant to the students. The students don't understand how can they use these theorems and these equations in their daily lives. So once you can make that bridge or help them do through peer-to-peer education, I love peer-to-peer education. Sometimes I can't talk the language of the students, but if I could get to one and the students can talk the language to each other, then we've made it. And so I started my career as an academic higher ed administrator, and I've been doing that for several decades. And I absolutely love my work. And my area of expertise within economics is entrepreneurship, human resources, and the future of work. That is my niche.
So let's go back a little bit to your childhood again. So I guess when you were in school, or for that matter, university, did you also have the same mindset of, okay, this is really boring, this is only theory, how can I use this? Did you have this as well?
Yes, I did. I did. Well, and how I got around it, I think I've always been a creative and innovator. I took the higher level courses, it's as opposed to the lower level courses, which were boring. So I would be taking courses like the economics of Africa, or human resources, and those where I could see the application. Then I went back. I have to be honest, some of that stuff you can't get if you don't have some of the foundations. So, but then I went back and got the foundations. But the way I managed it was I took courses that was interesting to me first. And once I could get how I could use it, then I went back for the other stuff.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's talk about a little bit about how can we solve this issue with students. You mentioned like peer-to-peer studying. Like, can you expand more on that? How do we solve the issue of boredom, in students?
Okay. All right. So I believe a lot in experiential learning. There's a lot that you can get out of the classrooms, but students learn by doing. All right. So much of the work I've done with my students, especially of late, I've done it outside of the classroom. Uh, we we've done a lot in entrepreneurship with pitch competitions. We've done a lot with taking them to see how business is run in other countries. I'll give you a perfect example. I've been doing this for a while, and I was able to get grant funding to take my students to Kenya to look and see how business is done by the Kenyans. And the Kenyans are very advanced when it comes to telecommunications innovations. And so once they actually literally saw the students at Kenyatta University, that's where we went. They saw how hard they worked. They saw the businesses that they were working in. They saw the coding. They were doing a lot of coding, and they came to me. The students came to me, and they made relationships with the other students there. And they came back to me and they said, "Dean, we're not working hard enough. The Kenyans are beating us. We got to do better." I mean, it was this natural, and it was something I couldn't do, but it was something they could look at and see it could be done, and they wanted to do it, and that they knew someone else was able to do it, and so they worked harder. Now, I will tell you, education is very different in different parts of the world. I mean, those students have to fight hard to get on those seats, and we mostly in our country have open education. But the point was that if they can do it, we can do it too. So it wasn't like the dean or the instructor who has many years of education doing it. It was watching someone who was like them have the ability to do it. And I have that example over and over. I have students who've lost competitions one year, got mad, and the next year came back and won. Because they knew it could be done and they wanted to do it. So yeah, peer-to-peer engagement is very strong because
Right.
there's some things that students do and know with each other that the instructors, we're just from a different generation. Most of us are from a different generation, but if we can get through to one or two, then that's why tutors are so good. Peer tutors are so good because they understand the language, they understand what breaks down, they understand how to cross that bridge that sometimes faculty and administrators can't cross.
That's really interesting. So basically, the this notion of competing always drives students to their best. I mean, we've always heard in sports and other stuff, but now now we say that the best way for students to learn is by competing with other people. And and striving to be better. Having the drive to win.
Well, I don't know if it's competing all the time. I think as we are going in the world, it's going to be more collaboration than competing. But the point is, the problems that we're trying to solve, one individual, they're too complex for one individual to solve. So it's getting students to learn how to work with others. The way we go through the school system, everyone works alone most of the time. So by the time you get to college, you're used to doing your own papers, your own work. But in real life, we have to work in teams and we have to be effective in teams. So the part of it is not so much the competition, but the part of it is learning how to work together with others for one goal. And that goal could be competitive, but it's really, I'll give you another example. In entrepreneurship, many of the students, they come along and they want to do their own business. And sometimes they don't want other team members because they're afraid that somebody's going to steal their idea. Well, yeah, exactly. But it's important to get them beyond that so that they can understand that they don't have the skills enough as a person yet to solve all the problems that the business is going to have. They need to build a team around them. So they need to, if they're not strong in financials, to get someone who's strong in financials. If they're not a creative, to find a creative. So you put all the pieces of the puzzle together, you get a strong team. Then you can go out and win the world. But so many of the students, they get a nice little idea and they don't want to share, they don't want to get help, and it's lost. It gets lost.
That's awesome. By the way, did you have these beliefs at the beginning about teamwork, or did you like learn them through your career?
I learned a lot through the career. The career has been long, and I've seen students in many different facets and many different stages. You know, I've launched different entrepreneurship programs, and as times change, students change. What I've seen now is the benefits of technology to help bring some of those resources that a few years ago, maybe a few decades ago, weren't there. So you don't need to have all of the team in the same geography with you like you did before. If you were going to have a team in a college, you pretty much had to know those people. They had to be resident. Now you can have a team all over the world and drive that team with the technology, and it gives you the ability to get more like-minded people together. Say you're a real engineering geek type, and there's not that many engineering geek types at your school. Well, you go on the internet, and well, you guys know I used to game with my students. You find people all over the world who like to do the same things that you do. And now that's almost trivial. Back in the day when I had my students doing simulations and gaming and some real estate kind of exercises, it was pretty much limited to them in that geography. Now the world is wide open, and I like it because it takes away a lot of the barriers. No one has to know how old you are. No one has to know what color you are. No one has to know whether that you have a disability. I work with a lot of folks from the protected classes. In fact, that's the reason why I had my students to build 20 years ago businesses on the internet, because the internet is just performance based. You know, you deliver goods or services, people don't care about the other stuff. It's irrelevant, you know? So the world has changed a lot. I have a student who has a business with goods and services driven out of Nairobi. He's from St. Lucia, that's one of the Caribbean islands, but he lives in New York. And he got that from looking at and building relationships with the students that he had met. I had nothing to do with it. He has a larger network in Kenya than I do. I mean, he was a fascinating networker, and he used that to his advantage. Now he's doing some other things, but that's one of the many businesses he had. And he had that business before he graduated from college.
That is a great story, by the way. That is an awesome story. I also believe that way because again, like there is still this popular belief that you can succeed only in certain countries. Like everybody says, go to Western Europe if you're from the East, or go to some other developed countries. And it's funny now with the internet, like everything is like the great equalizer. Like you can succeed anywhere. And I like the part about the network. It's all about the network, honestly. I mean, but anyway, that's another topic. And I guess I'm gonna go outside of our topic again, but I just want to talk a little bit about the rise of Africa. Because I have also friends in Nigeria. And Nigeria is growing rapidly. I have friends in Kenya as well, though they are not from Nairobi. Anyways, like they're growing so fast, it's ridiculous. Like I mean, I'm thinking of, holy crap, if people don't get to the continent, which is a huge opportunity, like they're missing out. Like, everybody talks about Bitcoin's the next thing, or this is the next thing, but nobody talks about the real geopolitics. And for example, Africa is growing so fast that, hell, I want to have listeners there, because they're gonna be so awesome. So I guess I should ask you, like, why do you think Africa is growth is so fast? I mean, I know that most of the population there is kind of like, most of them are young, therefore they're probably more inclined to innovation. But what is your take on this? Because it's just fascinating.
Okay, so that's a big topic for me as well. It's not just Africa. There are three places where there's explosive population growth. Africa is the population is particularly young, which is a challenge for them when they're trying to figure out, well, how are we going to employ all of these young people, or what is the place of entrepreneurship for all of these young people? But it's Africa and the Indian region, where India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. I got stories about that. I do a lot of work in that area as well. And of course, they talk about China, and but Africa, Africa has one of the youngest populations. I don't study too much West Africa, but I do study a lot of East Africa, and I actually lived and worked in East Africa before. The 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 innovation and creativity there. They have to be more innovative. They have to be more creative because they have less of the resources, less of the capital. And some of the issues and the challenges they are facing now, when people do come, they want their creativity, they want their innovation, but they want to port it somewhere else. And that is not a solution for them. So what the educators and practitioners I am working with are how do we create more job creators on the continent? I'll give you another example. The African Leadership University, they have 3 institutions in Africa. Their sole goal and purpose is to develop thousands and thousands of new leaders who can be entrepreneurs to help create jobs on the continent. They see the issue, they see the problem, and a lot of times there's been some African brain drain. If you know, many of the African leaders previously, when they went away, they didn't come back, and they stayed in other countries. Well, now the emphasis is on stop the brain drain, create opportunity here. You see it in Nigeria, you see it in Kenya. You're going to see it more and more in Rwanda. It's coming up in Rwanda, more and more because all of those youth can't port out. And if you have that many unemployed youth, it is not sustainable. It is just not sustainable. So they know they have a problem, and they know the solution isn't the solutions of the past, which were colonialism. People would come, they would stay, they would take the raw goods and services out, and the people there would still be poor. So now the solution is more, let's create our own opportunity, let's create our own jobs and services, let's export, but let's benefit from some of that export as well. And let's not import as much, let's produce more for ourselves. There was an example where they were actually importing corn into one of the countries, and people were saying, why are we importing corn? We can produce corn ourselves. Why do we have to pay some of that? So some of the mindset is shifting. It's been a little slower than we would like because the population is growing so fast. But I do believe that the shift is happening, and the transformation will be coming, and the technology is going to help more businesses stay in Africa by Africans. And education is a big part of it. It's very difficult to run a business if you don't have some basic skills, if you don't have some mentorship, if you don't have some training. So a lot of the pieces to the puzzle are coming piece or bit by bit. So I do believe the continent is going to change, and I hope it changes more in my lifetime.
Well, let's get back to India though, and Bangladesh and Pakistan, that region. Because, well, I guess although they have such a large population, it's like, I mean, I don't know. Do you think that, I guess they have some sort of an advantage because there are so many people, and like, for example, there are a lot of smaller countries who are not, rich in resources or anything like that, that are also trying to do stuff, but they're not succeeding. Like, why do you believe that India, for example, and Bangladesh are growing so fast? Is it again the population or something else?
Well, I don't necessarily know the why, but I do know, and I'll give you another story about Bangladesh. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of work in Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan lately. They have a drive for entrepreneurship. They get it. They understand that they don't want all the people in the villages to leave to go to the city, because what has happened around the world has happened in Nairobi. Nairobi has one of the largest slums in the world. The people leave the rural village because they want a new life. The young people leave the rural village because they want a new life. Well, the city can't absorb all of the people that comes, and so what you find is you find a lot of destitution and poverty around. So in much of the work that's going on now, we're going to go back to Bangladesh and India. They are trying to establish the wherewithal for people to do businesses in their home rural village. Still, I don't want to mislead you. Most of the funds for entrepreneurship is in the city. That is true. But there is a new mindset. Actually, we're compiling a book now, and in that book is several rural studies where the entrepreneurship is in the town in that region, as opposed to trying to go to the city. But I'm saying this because the cities aren't built to hold everybody. And so what is happening is they're putting infrastructure, and you need the infrastructure. If you don't have the ability to have the internet, is very challenging to have some of these businesses. So they are putting some of the infrastructure in some of these places so that we can have some of the businesses. Let me give you an example about Bangladesh. There was this young man. He was in high school, I guess, and he had multiple sclerosis, and he had to stop school. It was a very sad story. I mean, he was wanted to continue school. He saw on the TV someone who had multiple sclerosis, but was still engaged, was still had a purpose of life. So he ordered CDs for a skill, with his multiple sclerosis. He was in a wheelchair, but he picked up that skill. He went on 5R, that's one of the gig things, and he offered his skill. I think he was doing logo design or something like that. Now, mind you, he has multiple sclerosis. He could barely move, but he was able to do this and do it so effectively. And that's what really is sweet about the gig economy. It's, can you deliver? They don't care how big your firm is, how little. They don't care if you got a disability, where you are in the world. As long as you can perform, repeatedly perform, it rewards you. And it did. He created a business so large that his entire family, he took care of his mother, his entire family, built them a house. And just a little late last year, he died from the multiple sclerosis. But my point here was, he didn't make any excuses. He was in a village. He couldn't get out of the village to build his business, but he used the technology to build his business in the village. And he was able to reap the benefits from tapping resources from all over the world, bringing it to him, and then him being able to deliver their goods and services. That story resonates with me because so many of us don't have problems like multiple sclerosis. We have our homes already. He had to build a home. We have so much that some people have so little, and they creative. The human existence is creative. Most people don't want to just lay down and die. Most people don't want to just let you give them money. Most people want to have a fruitful existence. And so this story was a story that was brought to me by one of my colleagues in the future of work. But and so I didn't know him personally, but I know many scholars in India. I've been to India, I've been to Pakistan. Actually, I'm scheduled to go to Pakistan again in a few months. I was supposed to be there in November, but because of COVID, you just couldn't travel. Actually, I haven't traveled since March of last year. That was my last trip, but I'm hoping to be able to go again. I believe so much in this work, and any way I can help anyone else to find a way to create jobs. I mean, not everybody can do it. That's the other side of the coin. Job creation and being entrepreneurship, you have to have, like this young man I told you about, determination, passion. uh, I mean, you have to be self-motivated. He didn't have anybody teaching him. He didn't have a mentor. He didn't have a trainer. Now, this is an exceptional case. This is not a normal case because in most places you can find a mentor, even if you have to do it online. But for those who can, they can help take care of themselves. They can help take care of their families, and they can help take care of others in their communities if their business grows fast enough.
So you say that not everybody can be driven to succeed in the gig economy. Like not everybody can become an entrepreneur.
Okay, wait a minute. So no. Let me say this. Not everybody is going to do what it takes.
Yeah.
Not everybody will do what it takes. Let me just put it like that. There is no barriers. I mean, even I believe that we have stripped away a lot of the resource allocation issues and challenges. You used to have to have massive amount of labor to do production. You used to have massive amount of capital. We decoupled all of that, with the technology. No, no, no. But the willingness to do what it takes to find your niche, the willingness to go out and meet a market need, the willingness to hear no, 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 no until you get to your yes. Uh, yeah, no, not everyone will want to do that. Can they do it? Sure, they could, but a lot of people won't, and I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. But those who can be job creators, we want as many of them out there so that they can create jobs for folks who can't create the jobs for themselves,
Hmm.
or choose not to. Choose not to. That's a better word. That's a better word.
Where can people find you, Joanne?
I'm sorry.
Where can people find you online?
LinkedIn is the best place. I am on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm there daily almost. And no, actually, I'm there daily. There's no day that I'm not there. Now, I don't post every day. I post fairly frequently, but I am online every day. So reach out to me through LinkedIn, JD Roll at LinkedIn, or Joanne Roll. Just that's how you can get to me.
Awesome, awesome. So, well, I guess this would be the best ending for this amazing episode. What is your vision for the future of job creation? Are you optimistic, pessimistic, realistic, or both? What is your vision for the future? What do you see happening, and where is it happening?
I am so very, very optimistic. I believe in the young generation. And my generation, we were different. But this young generation, they are not going to settle. They are going to find a way to have the life that they want to have. They're not going to do what we did, and I'm not going to articulate on that. They're going to look at the technology. They're going to look at their lifestyles. They're going to look at what they want at the back end and how to bring it into them. I work with a lot of young people, and I'm working with some of the scholars now. I do think the future of work is going to be bright, but it's not going to be normal. Normal was not good for the masses. Okay, people say, well, I want to get back to normal. Well, normal was not good for Africa. Normal is not good for many people in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan. Normal was good for the people who already had the wealth. And the wealth gap has widened, especially in the US, but in other places too, because I've studied the wealth gap and income gap in other places. And so the wealth gap, because of COVID, has increased. I do believe eventually it will turn around because we're going to figure this out. And when I say we, I'm talking about the bigger we. And I do believe it's the young folks, the students who, and I'll just talk about this country, many of them were told you get your education and you will get a job. Well, that is not the case. I mean, we have a lot of good students out of work and can't find jobs. So some of them will figure out how to bring work not only to themselves but to their community. A lot of the students believe in social entrepreneurship. They want to do entrepreneurship for the social good. Not that they don't want to make money, but they don't want to just make money. Like, they don't just want to amass wealth for the sake of wealth. They want to bring along those in their community, and they want to bring along other students like them. So we're working on a book right now. It's called The Future of Work and Entrepreneurship for the Underserved. And that book should be out in May. It is by 20 different researchers and scholars from around the world, including all those regions that I mentioned to you. And it will be from their point of view, what is happening in entrepreneurship and how the future of work and entrepreneurship. You hear everyone talk about the future of work, but seldom do they talk about the future of work and entrepreneurship. They are hand in hand. The entrepreneurs are going to bring along the workforce. It's not the other way around. And so we need to understand how that's going to happen. And so me and my colleagues have been working on this for some time, but we've been working on like Africa and Chile and Jamaica. Now we'll bring together other colleagues who are working on India, Bangladesh, um, and some of those other countries. So we will have, I think, a rich body of work on what is happening in entrepreneurship and what the future of work would look like in places that we don't often talk about. When you often talk about the future of work, they're talking about the future of work in the US, the UK, like you mentioned in the beginning of the broadcast. They're talking about other places where you have to go. The world is not going to be a place where you have to go to a developed country anymore to do entrepreneurship. I believe some of the talent that's coming out of the places like India and Africa is going to lead instead of be led. Look at all of the mobile telecommunication work that has happened right out of Kenya, out of Nairobi specifically. They led the world in that. Why? Because scarcity was a driver there. It demanded that they be more creative than other folks. And I believe that same kind of drive and need to think of things differently is going to change the world. And I believe the developing countries are going to be leaders in that. In fact, what we find now, and my colleagues tell me now, is a lot of investors from developed countries are coming to the developing countries, and they are coming to take some of their thoughts and their ideas, and there's a lot of resistance. There's a lot of resistance. So I am very optimistic. I do not want to go back to normal. I want to go to better, much better, a better future for work and entrepreneurs.
Awesome, Joanne. So thank you so much for doing this. I hope listeners took some amazing notes, like amazing, I mean, big, long, etc. Because I sure as hell did. Thank you so much for your time today and for sharing us all this information. And I hope when the book is out, we can have you on again to talk about it. Does that sound good with you?
Yes, yes, most definitely. I was just talking to the publisher. Yes, most definitely. I was just talking to the publisher this weekend, and we were talking about the pre-launch for the book. We're going to launch it during our annual conference in June. But I am as the lead editor, I am going to be talking about every chapter in the book right up until it is published in different formats and different venues. So, of course, when the book is out, I'm happy to come back, but also I would be happy to share a copy of the book with you and your audience.
Awesome. Well, that sounds awesome. Well, I can't wait for it. So again, thank you so much for your time and have a great rest of the year. See you.
Thank you.